Hello and welcome back to this restoration cleanup, whatever the hell this is supposed to be. And we've got a bunch of rust to deal with. So instead of going for my usual approach, which is dip everything in vinegar, we're gonna go for some unorthodox methods for the steel parts. The saddles is gonna be another thing. I'm gonna try some other different stuff. But yeah, for all the parts that basically stick to a magnet, all the ferromagnetic stuff, meaning mostly steel, we're gonna skip past all the stuff you've seen a million times in forums like WD-40 and all that stuff. So yeah, for this stuff, we're gonna go for the chemistry weird unorthodox approach. So for that, we're gonna go to the kitchen because that's where chemistry is done. The kitchen. Where else? So yeah, kitchen it is. Okay, so we're gonna kick things off with half a liter of water into which we are going to dissolve 50 grams of citric acid. Okay, so this is where most people would stop, right? Citric acid makes sense. You attack the rust with an acid. That's why people use lemon. That's why people use Coca-Cola because it's got phosphoric acid, or that's why people use vinegar because it's acetic acid. Okay, but we want to do something different. First, we want to be gentler with the base metal, so we want to try to avoid actually using an acid, and also we want to make something that's faster, more effective, more efficient. So into this thing, we are going to dump 20 grams of sodium carbonate, aka washing soda. So in she goes, and right away we see a reaction because, well, we're mixing an acid and a base, so they're going to react with each other. And besides producing those CO2 bubbles we're seeing here and a little bit of water, we are going to get sodium citrate. Now, sodium citrate is what's known as a chelating agent. All right, so we have lost our acid, but now we have gained a chelating agent. Now, without getting too annoyingly nerdy, chelation is a process by which we are going to try to steal those iron atoms that are stuck in the rust by using this molecule we have just created. Now, the first good thing about this is that with this method, we are going to turn the rust into something that's soluble in water, which does not happen with the acid attack. So this is going to be more effective because it attacks the first layer of rust, and then the next thing is exposed, and it just keeps going. Now, another thing is this not being an acid is not gonna attack the base material as much. So it's really fast, it doesn't require any brushing or anything, and it really helps you preserve the base material without destroying it, okay? And I know it seems kind of pointless to focus on that aspect when it comes to guitar screws and stuff like that, because how often are you going to do this on the same piece to get any noticeable damage due to overexposure? But I don't know, maybe you're dealing with a piece of historical value. Regardless, it is a good practice to try and be forgiving of the base material and just attack the part that you want to get rid of. So anyway, here I am getting rid of some sodium carbonate rocks that are still fizzing around, and we're ready for the last ingredient. Good old dish soap, and man am I smooth. Look at that. If that ain't smooth application, I don't know what is. Yeah, just a bit more. Oh, I could watch me all day. So anyway, what this is going to do is act as a surfactant. Basically, it's going to reduce the surface tension of the solution so that it can get into any nook and crannies it can find and act fast and quick and effectively. So after some more riveting footage of me mixing things and cleaning my shame, I'm going to start dipping things in, and I'm going to speed this up so you can see how the solution starts changing colors right away. And immediately, check out this spring from the bridge pickup. This was completely rusted over. Go back and have a look if you don't remember what it looked like. It's 48 seconds, precisely. I went back and checked on the timestamps. That's how fast this thing is. Now, painted hardware, that's at your own risk. Because see the screw? This is supposed to be black. A lot of paint was already missing, but by the end of it, there's no more paint. I had done some preliminary tests with some painted screws that I had, and nothing happened with the paint, but I don't know. I don't know about the composition of every single kind of paint. So yeah, when in doubt, with your painted hardware piece, just skip it. Same as you would with vinegar or any other acid. And it's time for more shaky camera footage of me inspecting bubbles, because that's what chemistry is all about, right? Pretty bubbles. And you can see the thing is going at it like crazy. Look at that bubbling there, right? Amazing. That is a solution doing its thing. Now, yeah, beautiful, shaky cam. Okay, no, focus. The other thing. Yeah, no, go down there. There you go. Look at that. That reminds me of that thing that nice pint of Guinness does when the little bubbles on the head of the beer, like start doing like a cascade. And of course, I'm gonna be fucking around with the thing all the time and spectating it because at this point, I'm kind of worried about the Chrome because the theory says that this solution should do nothing to Chrome, and I did my preliminary tests with Chrome as well, but with some screws and stuff that I had lying around, including some old guitar pickguard screws and such. But yeah, I just saw what happened with the paint, so I'm starting to get a little bit nervous. And yeah, throughout this thing, you're gonna see me fuck around with the thing over and over. And I'm sorry I kept you waiting there with an image of nothing for a second, but I was worried waiting for this part and it wasn't worth spitting it up. See how that clouding that it had is completely gone. That thing, that whitish shit that you get on this big chrome plates is gone. It's gone. There's still scratches and there's still marks and stuff. That's I can't get rid of that really, but yeah. And this is another interesting thing. See how at the beginning when I removed this thing there was like copper carbonates and sulfates. So that was that greenish thing underneath this plate. And see that color? That's copper. This thing's got some copper to it, or a lot of it. It still sticks to a magnet, so I assume it's mostly steel, but underneath the chrome there is copper, and that's why you saw that green shit that now is gonna be really painful to remove from the finish. So here you see me fishing out a random screw that still had a long way to go, and I'm doing a very poor job at showing you exactly how rusted it still was, but yeah, that's why you're gonna see me trying to mechanically aid some of the parts, like with the brush and stuff like that, which kind of defeats the purpose of doing this instead of using vinegar, but I don't know, I was just waiting and I felt like doing something, but probably didn't really help. So after roughly 15 minutes, I realized it was probably a good idea to start taking out the parts that were already rust free, because why overexpose them for no reason, and that also allows me to check the other parts more easily. And here with the brush, I'm just checking for some leftover gunk or whatever that may be trapped there, but the rust part is done. And now the steel can spend many hours in this solution without any noticeable damage, maybe even a day or a little bit more. But even though theory says that chrome should be safe as well, I don't see any reason to leave anything in there longer than necessary. So yeah, out they go. And so then a few more minutes go by, and as I'm taking out the parts that are ready, I keep inspecting everything and, trying to brush some bad areas, like the heads of the screws, like the slots were really rusty. So I'm just trying to help things along because I'm bored. And there's stuff like this is a string tree, and it's fused with the screw. Like there was so much rust there that it was fused, and at some point it let go and it just, separated them. Then I immediately dropped a little plastic ring that separates the string tree from the face of the headstock. So that's why I'm not on camera right now, because it went straight down the drain. And I had to disassemble the whole thing to get it back, which seems like I just did. So yeah. But I thought I'd lost it, but no. I had to dismantle half my kitchen, but yeah, I got it back. So anyway, I keep going at it with the brush, not because I feel like I'm helping the solution do its job, but because I'm doing nothing to the rust, but because there's always, dirt and stuff trapped in, especially inside the slots of the heads of the screws. So yeah, the solution is not supposed to attack that. So if I get it out of the way, I feel like it can reach I don't know, the rust easier. Then at some point I realized that it would be smarter to try to use a screwdriver bits and the Allen wrenches because they fit exactly in the cavity. So if I move that stuff around, I don't know. I thought I was helping things along. Now that I think about it, maybe I was just compressing the dirt more evenly. I don't know. I had been standing there for almost 40 minutes. I had to do something because, I was bored and getting tired. But yeah, after like 40 minutes, this is what I'm left with. That's how good this thing is. This is the same awful, dirty, rusty hardware you saw at the beginning. And I mean, this is what it looks like now. This was truly amazing. There are still some things that need to spend a little bit more inside of the thing. There's a few screws that I left in. And yeah, this is a screw that used to be black, and now all the paint is gone, like I mentioned before. Now, this is one of the screws that sets the intonation. Still has some black stuff because it's in contact with brass, so that's probably different kind of oxide. So I'm gonna have to deal with that in a different way because the solution is not supposed to take care of copper oxide. In fact, that's what I'm fishing for right now. Other pieces that are in contact with brass to check if that's the case. And yeah, here's one of the height adjustment screws. You can see that it also has some black stuff though, so that's probably some kind of tarnish, or I don't know, copper oxide or copper carbonate or something. So yeah, I'm gonna deal with that when I deal with the saddles. But first, you have to rinse everything properly. That's very important. I just want to get rid of everything. So yeah, trying to be smart about it and not drop anything down the drain again. So yeah, that's just good rinse. Stop the solution. Yeah, see there, I cut one screw. That would have so gone down the drain. And just in case rinsing once wasn't good enough, or good edit there, yeah, why not rinse it twice? Just to be sure, just, to make sure I stopped the reaction completely. And there's also, see, some dirt that I caught. I mean, that's not that relevant, but yeah, I mean, just there's no need not to be thorough about things after going through all this work. And then finally, some isopropyl alcohol, and much more than I really needed. I don't know why I dumped that much, but yeah, the alcohol serves the purpose of speeding up the evaporation process so that rust does not set back in like 5 minutes, but it also helps me get rid of whatever oils or grease or whatever may be left in the hardware. At this point, this is probably overkill because after going through that solution, even though it's not supposed to dissolve grease and oils, I mean, the pieces look like perfectly clean. But yeah, I always use alcohol, and this time it was probably not required. But yeah, like I said, it helps speed up the evaporation process. And as I check every piece and decide if it needs to spend a little bit more time in the bath or not, I just wipe it on a paper towel. And if anything black, like you saw there, appears, or brownish or whatever, I inspect the piece and I see like, oh, look, it still has a little bit of rust left. And it goes back into the solution for another like 5-10 minutes as I check the rest of the pieces. And this also gives me a chance to classify the pieces that were in contact with brass, because they need further detarnishing in this case. But yeah, here it is. I mean, there are pieces with dark spots, which because that's where there was chrome, and then rust settled in, and so there's no chrome left. There's nothing I can do about that. And this is one of those screws that was supposed to be black, but yeah, it's not black anymore. Looks like that thing ate away at the paint. Nothing I can do about that either. But these pieces look, I'm not gonna say brand new, but yeah, those are finger marked. But yeah, look impeccable. And these are the parts that were in contact with brass. So they have different kinds of oxides. So I'm gonna have to deal with them in a different way, but at least they do not have any ferric oxide anymore. So yeah, I mean that was a quick way to sort them out. And here's the little the little plastic ring that I rescued from the depths of the sink. God damn it. And there's one more screw that one put a hell of a fight. And right there, that was an edit. That means 2 hours went by. I left the house and came back. There were actually 2 screws. And yeah, they still have some stuff left. And yeah, at this point, I gotta give up on that, because I could probably leave them there overnight, but the screw itself is really screwed up. Sorry, that was not intentional. And actually, then I checked the body of the guitar, and there was actually like rust inside the like on the wood. Like I mentioned earlier, like a screw could be rotting away inside the wood due to humidity, and you could never realize. And then at some point, like it just snaps. Like imagine it's one of the screws holding the bridge, and the thing is rotting and rotting and rotting, and just the rust is eating away at the metal, and all of a sudden you're just playing and something fucking snaps, and you're left with quite literally a floating bridge. So yeah, humidity, not your best friend when it comes to guitars. Okay, this is gonna be fun. Look at all that tarnish on that saddle, but you know what? Where most people see tarnish, you know what I see? I see opportunity. I choose to be a positive person. You know what I see here? I see 3 saddles to which society has failed, and I also see the chance to take these 3 saddles and test on them 3 different detarnishing methods. Okay, what is tarnish? Tarnish, in this case, is oxides of zinc and copper, as well as some sulfides and maybe carbonates and hydroxides, but in a smaller proportion. I also have these pieces, which are mostly steel, so they had ferric oxide, but there is some tarnish on them as well because they were in contact with these pieces. So those are going to be subject to these methods as well. But I will mostly focus on these three settles because, yeah, like I said, I'm a positive person and I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. So join me into, setting these settles aside, and please let's say hi to our first contestant. You can see it's a cylindrical piece of copper and zinc, which that's what brass is, and it looks like shit. So here's our first method. You all know it, you all love it. It's good old dipping the brass in ketchup and hoping for the best. So, now before we get started, I want to give this method, as well as the rest, the best fighting chance possible. So we're going to be using isopropyl alcohol to rub down these pieces and get rid of any residues that are not, tarnish related, like hand oils and grease and just general gunk and dirt that might be laying on the surface. Because besides giving these three methods the best fighting chance possible, we're going to be dealing with acids, believe it or not. So yeah, I want to reduce the exposure time as much as possible so that the healthy material within the saddle remains as healthy as possible. Makes sense, right? Anytime you're using a chemically based method, you try to keep reaction times as low as you can manage so that you can best preserve the piece. But why ketchup? Well, ketchup contains tomato, allegedly, which means citric acid, as well as malic and some other acids, and it also has vinegar, which means acetic acid, low concentration acids, but acids nonetheless. So, by dipping the saddle in ketchup, we are just attacking the tarnish with an acid. That's just the gist of it. Now, a thing to keep in mind is anytime you are attacking tarnish with an acid, you are also attacking the base material. In this case, this is brass, which means copper and zinc. The first thing to go is the zinc. This is what is referred to as desensification, which is egghead talk for pink saddles. And it's not that bad. It rubs off since it's atoms thick, but all in all, it is loss of base material, so we want to avoid this as much as possible. So we're going to drop the thing in ketchup, and then we're going to let it rest for a minute there as the ketchup does its thing, and then we are going to remove it, rinse it to stop the reaction, inspect it, and then we'll see how we move on from there. So here comes the ketchup, and you should know that not all ketchup brands work the same because, well, there are different recipes. For instance, I tested this versus Hellmann's, and this one worked twice as fast. And yes, I am indeed a nerd. But yeah, keep that in mind because, times will vary. So in goes the saddle, we cover it well, and we let it rest for a few minutes. And then we come back and inspect it. And while you might feel like you are being treated to a bunch of nothing. This is actually a time lapse, 5 minutes to be precise. I had a stopwatch off camera, after which I proceed to rinse the piece well and inspect it to see how this is going, because, I can always dip it back for a bit longer. And you can see that this is already working, and I'm trying to see if my fingers can dislodge some of it, but they can't at the moment. And of course, here comes the brush, because why not? But yeah, it is working. I see no real pink hue, even though I see there a little bit of discoloration, but I'm not sure yet what is going on, because some of it seems to have been the areas that were underneath the tarnish that have been exposed. But yeah, that ketchup has done its job so far. But yeah, it's gotta go in for a few more minutes and then we'll see again. And by again, I mean exactly 2.5 minutes, which I timed, and then right now, when I fish out the piece again and I rinse it again. And it's only 2.5 minutes because at this point the thing is working fast. So, but I gotta just keep on checking because see, there are already big chunks of tarnish missing, and underneath that tarnish there are pink areas. These cannot be avoided because that is the zinc that oxidized first and it created a protective layer that kept the copper as is. That's gonna rub off. I'm gonna have to polish it a little bit, but yeah, you can see how it is working. And there are also some areas where the tarnish wasn't bad or there was no tarnish at all. That yeah, those are also pink. Like you see that stripe there on the middle that I barely just showed. Yeah, that's just there. And of course, I'm gonna try to rub it a little bit with ketchup because reasons. Because for some, I don't know why that made sense to me, but yeah, you can see that it's doing nothing. So it goes back in for a couple more minutes. Now by a couple this time, I mean literally 11. That's the time that I have. Because yeah, at this point I decided that I should just let the thing do its job. Then rubbing off that pink area it's a second. There is no relevant loss of material here. We are not dealing with an antique of any kind. So yeah, let's just let the chemistry do its job. And yeah, I fish out the thing. You saw me there that I did a couple brushings and inspections and crap. And this is what we end up with. There is pink. It is mostly on the areas that were covered by tarnish because, well, it seems like zinc corroded before copper and it left a layer of untouched copper underneath the tarnish. There's also those black marks, which they have depth. I have no idea how they came to be, but seem to be some sort of pitting due to corrosion or something. But they do not rub off that well. But doesn't matter. It's not that bad. And yeah, I'm going to try to rub that piece of pink off with that piece of flannel that I have there that has nothing. There's no polishing compound or anything there. I'm just going to try to rub that off. And I'm going to give it just a couple seconds. You can see that there's nothing on that rack, and you already see that it's a little bit more yellowy. I mean, this is just to prove the point that it's literally atoms thick. I will switch to Sif Cream now to polish it a little bit, but just look at it. I mean, this end was completely black, and now all it has is a little bit pink. This one wasn't that black, but yeah, I mean, it's completely clean. So now that I got rid of all the tarnish without basically doing anything to the metal itself, now it's just a little bit of Sif Cream, quick polish, that was nothing, and I rinse it, and look at what this looks like now. This looks nothing like that black piece of whatever you saw a few minutes ago, and I'm gonna give it a quick rinse on the sink because that bowl has ketchup on it. But yeah, I mean, look, it's amazing. I could leave it as is, okay, and it would look just fine on the guitar. But yeah, I mean, I'm a freaking perfectionist, and those grooves are a little bit black, and I can see that there's still some ketchup trapped inside there or some cream. I don't know what. So I'm gonna stick a brush in there and I'm gonna polish it off just to finish evening out the color. But yeah, had I gone at it straight with the Sif Cream, I would have been polishing for a long time and I would have lost material, which is, again, it's not the end of the world with this saddle, but on principle, you want to try to avoid this kind of stuff. I mean, this is not an old statue or an antique or something, but yeah, man, look at that. That was just a couple minutes of work, a little bit of alcohol to, again, like I did previously, favor evaporation and make sure I get rid of everything, every last bit of ketchup, because ketchup's got acetic acid. Acetic acid reacts with copper. You end up with copper acetate, which is just that green shit you see on statues that fancy people call verdigris, but yeah, it's green shit. So yeah, you don't want that on the saddles. So yeah, now that it is absolutely stunningly perfectly clean minus that black pitting, there was nothing that I could do about that, but that's gonna be looking downwards anyway. So yeah, that's the top side. I don't know, it doesn't get any better than that. And that was just less than 20 minutes ketchup plus maybe 2 minutes polishing. All right, now give a warm round of applause to contestant number 2. And holy shit, that looks hideous. And on the opposite corner, white vinegar and salt. We've all seen this one. This one's a classic. There's a million YouTube videos. You get a no penny, you add vinegar and salt, and it becomes basically brand new. So what we're doing here is dropping the saddle inside this little bowl, and we are grabbing vinegar, which is acetic acid, 4% to be precise in this case, and we are gonna mix in some salt with it. Now the salt part seems to be very much up to debate. No matter how many PhDs there are in the room, they can never seem to get along. Like, some will say that the acetic acid is doing all the work, while the salt is just increasing the ionic power of the solution. Then there's some others that say that the salt and the acetic acid will react with each other and you end up with sodium acetate and hydrochloric acid, which is a stronger acid than acetic. Then there are those who say that there's both dissociated acids and dissociated salts, and that increases the amount of hydronium cations on the solution, and that's all that's doing the heavy lifting. To me, everyone is using different words to describe the same thing. Regardless of that, we're gonna do the penny method, and it's gonna be absolutely amazing. And by amazing, of course, I mean faster and much more aggressive, so you gotta be awake on this one. You can't just let it rest for 20 minutes, because desensification in this case is gonna be a factor, and it could be a little bit more than a few atoms thick. So yeah, you gotta be awake on this one, because this one is a ketchup method all over again, only this time on meth and Viagra. It could turn out to be like some kind of fucking brutal rape. And I don't know why I went there, but you try keeping cleaning saddles interesting for 25 minutes. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Just give me a break, all right? I'm just trying to get to the end of this, and just shut up and let it roll. And so roll it did for exactly 3 minutes, during which, to be honest, I should have left it alone, because a time lapse would have been much more interesting to see exactly how fast this thing goes, but I don't know. I felt like I needed to keep on checking, because I was learning as I was going. So yeah, I was afraid I was going to ruin it somehow. So there's that. And this is it. After 5 minutes, this is what we're left with. Same marks as the previous one. So there's not much more that the vinegar can do about that, unless I want to overexpose it for no reason. But I'll stop the reaction, rinse this properly, and sieve cream it is again. And before it was too late, I remembered to show that yes, there's again desensification under what the tarnish was, and there's also some on other areas, because, well, the healthy surfaces were exposed for a little bit longer than I would have wished for. But yeah, I mean, that's the compromise on this case, is you either get rid of all the tarnish or you protect the healthy areas. That you cannot get both at the same time. But it's not that bad. It's basically the same scenario. I'm going to rub this thing. I'm going to go for a little bit longer than the previous time, because not only do I want to even out the colors as well as I can, but also see if I can get rid of that stuff that's trapped there on those marks, even though it doesn't really matter. But see, after a couple of minutes, this is what I'm left with. Get rid of this dirty water, quick rinse on the sink, and yeah, I mean, look at that. This saddle was a little bit worse to begin with, so there's still some areas that, I mean, I could keep going, but again, this is going to be facing downwards, so at this point I think my work is pretty much done. Looks as amazing as I'm going to be able to make it look. So yeah, into the alcohol again as I get ready for method 3, while I clean up the mess that I just made when I spilled all the vinegar, and I'm going to leave these pieces and vinegar and salt, because, well, they were the steel pieces that were in contact with brass, so they still have tarnish that has to be dealt with. And since I've already seen that this method is quite fast, well, I chose this method for this stuff. And after 6 minutes, here's what I'm left with. I mean, these were the springs that were completely hideous, and yeah, now they are rust-free and tarnish-free. I mean, yeah, of course they don't look brand new shiny. I have no idea what they're supposed to look like when they're new, but yeah, I mean, all that oxide and all that tarnishing, it does remove some of the material, so it turns kind of opaque. But yeah, and these screws, they were basically black in those areas, and now, yeah, it still has like a little bit. That's gonna be hidden anyway, but yeah, I wanted to get it as good as possible. It's kind of a shame, these little height adjustment screws. I wanted this one real nice, real shiny, but of course, where chrome went away, there's no way to undo that. So yeah, this is the best that I could do without going completely insane about it. Besides, it's gonna look amazing once I put the whole thing back together. So quick dip in alcohol, proper drying, and these pieces are as good as they're ever gonna get. And here is saddle number 2. Dude, even on the inside, look at those threads. There's a little bit of pink on the groove, but it's gonna be string on top of that, so who cares? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for our third and final contestant facing salt, vinegar, and flour. Can you tell that I am tired and I should probably go to bed? But yeah, here's method number 3. And yes, by all means, you fucking maniac, arrange everything. Come on, you OCD fucking psychopath. So anyway, I'm gonna speed this up a bit because it's not that interesting, but it's basically the same thing. We have vinegar and salt, so the working principle is the same. The only difference is we're adding flour. Now, we want to make a paste, not a dough. We still want to be able to dip the saddle into the stuff, but the flour is going to inhibit the reaction a little bit, meaning it's going to be a little bit more under control. It's going to be a little bit slower, yet still very effective, but it's also going to be a little bit more forgiving with the base material. Now, the flour is also going to double as a mild polishing agent. So I'm going to dip this for a few minutes. I'm going to take it out, and then I'm just going to rub it with my fingers, and you're going to see that a lot of the stuff is going to come off. And then I can also polish it as if it were the Sif cream. Just polish it a little bit and start getting rid of the pink. You'll see in a second. And by a second, I mean right now, meaning 2 minutes after I dipped it in, and I checked it only once. You saw me rub it there momentarily, and here I am rubbing it a little bit. Now I am rinsing it, and just have a look at that. Only 2 minutes. Even though this is inhibited by the flour, the polishing action makes it overall much more effective. Just rubbing it with the fingers. See that there a little bit more came off. There's a little bit of pink. It's not that bad. It's mostly, if not all, on the areas that were covered by the tarnish, but the areas that you see that were clearly not tarnished, those show no desensification at all. So yeah, I mean, I could basically just leave it as is, even out the color with the Sif cream like I did before, maybe even just with a flour paste, and that would probably get the rest of the work done. But just to be safe, I'm gonna drop it back for 1 more minute to, let the reaction finish doing its thing. So here it is, 1 minute of hyperlapse, and by 1 minute, I really do mean 1 minute. So what you see here is 3 minutes total. That was 3 minutes in the solution, plus, you saw a little bit of a brushing, a little bit of polishing with the flour compound itself. So it wasn't even really submerged for total 3 minutes, and this is what you get. So this is what I meant by, okay, this is going to be a little bit more inhibited, so chemically it's going to be a little bit easier on the material, but at the same time it's going to provide the mildest of mechanical assistances, and yeah, that's enough. So now I can go with the Sif cream a little bit. I could have done it with the flour, but there is no way I can control that the chemical reaction is just not going to keep going. So I want to stop that and just focus on the polishing factor. And well, there you go. Salt, flour, vinegar. And this is what you get out of the 3. Well, this was, first of all, the easiest one. And to my eyes, this is the best result out of the 3. Like, yeah, there's a little bit of pink here and there, and there's that little bit of black that I could have polished that, but really what I want that there's no way you're gonna see that when it's mounted, and it's just gonna like work for the sake of working. But yeah, this looks spectacular. Like from now on, this is the way I'm doing it. So here you have it. Take a bow. Take a bow. This is method number 3. Just take a bow. Anyway, here would be my sign off for that day, or in this case, my sign off for this video. I know this was maybe not the most exciting of guitar repair, restore videos, but look at that hardware. That looked like shit, like what, 20 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago? I have no idea how long this has been going for, but just low effort, high yield, taking care of the base material. And yeah, I still have that stuff for the next video, but this is what you get. I mean, it's not perfect. I did not intend to get a new looking guitar. I'm going for the used yet slightly respected guitar, and I think we've just achieved that. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.